Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well. Now, in today's video, what I would like to do is to quickly answer a student request that I got from one of the students on the latest Appstore course that you can check out using a link in the description below. But basically, this student was asking me how to build out a UI view controller that kind of looks like this right here. So you see at the very top of the screen, we have games, TV shows, and devices. Some of you guys already know what this component is called, but this guy right here is a UI segmented control and currently has three things that you can select from it, right? So as you can see, games, TVs, and devices. And all the way at the bottom here is a table view that you can scroll up and down. Now, depending on which one of these segments that you click on, the very bottom right here is going to reload with the appropriate data related to the segment right here. So, for example, devices, it says MacBook Pro, iMac Pro, and Mac Mini. Now, some of you guys might not know exactly how to construct something like this, but basically, I'm going to show you how to do this using a single UI view controller that's embedded in a UI navigation controller. And what's tricky about this is that we are not going to use a UITableView controller, but instead we're going to add a segmented control all the way at the very top here. And right below it, we're going to add a UITableView that kind of looks like this and allows you to scroll up and down like so. All right, so hopefully you're looking forward to this lesson. Let's get down to coding inside of Xcode right now. Alrighty, everybody, before we get into the meat of today's lesson, I would like to just announce that we have a brand new course available on letsbuildthatapp.com. And inside of this course, we are going to learn how to build out all of the nice features that belong to the Appstore application, which looks like this, and this on the right side, right over here. Now, quickly, I would like to just highlight some of the nice features that we'll be learning how to build out. For example, we have the today's screen right over here. It looks kind of like this. We can click onto any of these elements to launch it full screen like so. Scrolling this guy up and down, you'll see a nice blurry panel appear right at the bottom there. Dragging this up and down will dismiss it like so. If you want to dismiss this page, you can do it by dragging or clicking on this X button over here. So let me show you that one more time by clicking somewhere down below. Drag this guy down and then let go of the mouse and it'll dismiss it to exactly where it came from. So a pretty awesome feature there. If you click into the apps page, which kind of looks like this, we are going to load up all this data using a lot of different various JSON APIs. So here's an API here, and also down below. Clicking into any of these apps will launch the detail screen, which looks like this. So you see the app icon here. We have a preview that you can swipe left, left, left. You see this nice snapping effect right over here. Makes sure all of your cells align to the left side like so. Pretty good stuff, and you can see the same effect right over here. So clicking into Netflix will show all of the app detailed information as well as the images just like that. All right, the third tab, we have the search page right here, which allows you to search through the App Store using the iTunes Search API. So for example, if we search for Twitter right here, it's going to launch the data inside of your collection view, which kind of looks like this. We are loading a lot of the images using SD Web Image. So I show you exactly how to install that pod. And finally, on the right side, we are loading this entire page, which allows you to paginate through the iTunes API. So every time you scroll down to the very bottom, you are going to load more. And this is a very good technique to make sure your network calls are very fast and performant, and to make sure you're not loading too much data on your user's cell phone. All right, so if you're interested in checking out this course, make sure to check it out by using the link in the description below. All right, having said that, let's get started with the lesson right now. Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to the coding session for today's video. Now, what I would like to do for today's lesson is to knock out this entire project within the first 20 minutes or so of this video. I'm not exactly sure if I can do it, but I'm going to try my best here. So why don't we go ahead and get started with our Xcode project on the left side of the screen. If you run this brand new project on the left side similar here, which is the iPhone X, you'll see a brand new white screen. So this looks pretty good. The only thing different about this project is that I've already gone ahead and imported this layout file here, which I'll show you how to use in just a moment. But everything looks good. First thing I'll do is to bring in a navigation controller for this entire app here. You see segmented table view, right? It's in the gray, that's a navigation bar. Easiest way of doing this is to do this programmatically, which is a lot of fun here. You want to specify window equals UI navigation controller. So navigation controller, actually, why don't we set the root view controller equals to this instead. And the root of your navigation controller hierarchy is going to be a view controller, just like so. Now this view controller is actually this guy here. So view controller, spelled V-I-E-W, controller, just like so. Now this guy, whenever you put them inside of this navigation controller programmatically, you are going to get this black screen, which isn't all that great. So why don't we specify view background color equal to .white. It's going to fix this black problem that you see right over here. You know, not exactly a problem, but it's nice having this guy to be white instead. And last thing I'll do before I wrap up on this navigation controller is to introduce the title, just to make things clear as to what the heck we're doing. So navigation item.title equals, let's see, spell this bad boy out here, segmented table view as 2 words. And you can try to run this again. Luckily my computer is pretty fast, and the run process is pretty quick here. All right, so segmented table view is our title, and the next thing we'll do is to introduce both of these components on the right side. So for example, we have a segmented controller and a table view here. So segmented control is actually what it's called. Why don't we create it up above? So segmented control. We are going to create this programmatically, just like we are all accustomed to doing by now, hopefully. We're going to call this SC equals UI segmented control. Inside of here, you want to use items, and this is actually the items that you see inside of the bar. So games, TV shows, and devices. Nothing too bad, right? So, I'll just use the same 3 strings for now. So TV shows, make sure to spell this guy correctly, and devices. All right, hopefully that looks okay. Let's return our segmented control and just execute our closure here using the paren. Okay, SC, that looks pretty darn nice. And now I'm going to create my table view as well. So table view equals UI table view. And this guy, I think you just want to use .0 and the style of plain here. Not exactly sure if you need the style, but this is what I'll create for now. And inside of my view controller right here in the white, I'm going to add my 2 controllers into the screen, which is pretty simple. A lot of different ways that you can do this. For example, you can lay out the segment control from the left, top, right, and somewhere up here with a height, and then lay the table view right underneath it. Or you can just use a simple stack view, which is what I always like to do. So let me show you how this is going to work, and hopefully I can do this correctly. So stack view is going to contain a vertical list of views. So this guy is your arranged views, and we are going to use segmented control. And then also this guy called table view. All right, so before you can add this inside of the screen, we are going to set the axis equal to vertical. Otherwise, it's going to line things up from left to right, which, obviously that's not what you want, right? So we are going to use that property. And then finally, we are going to add this as a subview of our view by using add subview of our stack view. And then we are going to use this anchor method here. So let me just type this out really quickly. Let's use this one perhaps. And okay, we are going to use the top right here. It's the top, the leading, the trailing, and the bottom. This is not too bad. So let's just say view.top anchor, view.leading anchor, and view.bottom anchor, view.trailing anchor. And for the padding and size, let's just use padding of 0 for now. And the size, I'll just wipe this guy out. So I'll try to run this, and some of you guys might be asking, what the heck is this anchor method, right? Well, I implemented this method inside of the UI view plus layout file. You can watch this video here if you're, in need of exactly how this method is derived. But basically, it just allows us to anchor things a lot faster. You guys know how much I kind of hate writing out the layout code, so this is a lot easier to do. Okay. With our stack view now kind of being laid out correctly, you can see we have our table view showing up, but you don't see your segmented control at the top with these 3 items, right? So the problem is that your view controller right here, the top anchor is actually all the way up here, which is a little bit confusing. So let me show you the fix. So view.safe area layout guide. use this if you want access to the top anchor that's right underneath the navigation bar. And so once you do that, you see your segmented control is now appearing just like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. And if you want to start your segmented controller with a selected index, it's pretty easy to do this with selected segment index. Set this guy equal to 0 or 1 or 2, depending on which one you want. But usually this guy is defaulted to the left guy on the left side right here as game. So let's just leave it as 0 for now. Okay, so that's good. And now, before I kind of fix the layout, why don't we actually get to the main functionality here of laying out these items inside of our table view. So for example, these rows of World of Warcraft, Fortnite, and Tetris, both are really excellent games at the very bottom. So I don't know if World of Warcraft is all that great anymore, but what I'll do is I'll create my arrays that will store these objects here, right? So, games is going to have an array, TV shows, and also devices. Nothing too confusing. So let's say games, and obviously you can create whatever you want. So WoW, World of Warcraft, I used to play this a lot. And let's see, Fortnite, what are kids playing these days? Fortnite, PUBG, is that one of the hot games? Let's see, and Tetris, which is something that I've been playing a lot lately. All right, so let's do this. Maybe, let's just finish this off. TV shows equals, let's see, Full House, and we will say Doctor Who. Is that a show? That's a good show. And then let's just finish off with devices, just to make this a little bit more interesting. You can create this in one line if you want. So let's say iMac Pro, and let's see, Mac Mini. All right, so that looks pretty good. We have 3 items here, 2 items here, and 2 items here. And now what I'd like to do is to introduce some rows inside of our table view here to represent the games at the very beginning. The way we are going to do this is to make sure that we can say something like number of rows inside of my table view, and also cell for a row at. Now, if you're accustomed to using a UITableView controller, then these methods are automatically overridable by that controller. But you see, for this view controller here, we're using just a plain old UI view controller. So this guy doesn't have the methods that belong to a table view controller. So the way you fix this is to make sure you conform to a couple of different protocols here. So UITableView has a data source, and UITableView has a delegate, like so. Now, whenever you conform to these 2 protocols, is what you call it, you have to implement the methods required by the TableView data source protocol. So for example, this one right here, number of rows in section, and cell for row at. That's kind of what you have to do. So why don't we go ahead and use number of rows in section and just return games.count. So for example, we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4 games right here. Finally, for cell for row at, you can just return whatever you want to render inside of your table view. You can do this a lot of different ways. One of the easiest ways is to just create a cell, which isn't always the best thing to do. But that's what I'll do for now, just for this example here. And for the text on your cell, which is going to show up like this, right? So World of Warcraft, you can set it to be whatever you want. So whatever you want, and we'll just leave it like that. So return cell, and it looks pretty good. So let's just remove those 2 errors here and try to run this code. You're going to expect to see maybe your table view render out these rows here, but as you can see, nothing is really happening. And the problem is your table view, which is this vertical list on the very bottom, is not really connected to anything. So what I mean is, when the table view is created right here, you still have some setup work left over to do, which is to tell the table view what the data source is. So I'm going to set it equal to self, and you might as well set delegate equal to self as well. So whenever you set this up, you're going to ask yourself what exactly your data source is. So when that happens, it's going to ask self, which is this view controller here, what exactly the number of rows is for the table view. So you return games.count, which is 4, and it's also going to render out a cell per each one of those rows that you return. So that's kind of why we see whatever you want in the table view here. Last thing you want to do is obviously you don't want to say this bit of text. You want to grab it from the games array. So let me just show you how this is done. So games and index path dot row. Nothing too simple. You're going to call 0, 1, 2, 3, and you get 0, 1, 2, and 3. All right, so now that we've laid out the two main components for our UI, and we've also hooked up our table view, what I would like to move on to now is to listen to the events of our segment control changing whenever we click on it, like so. And then we can actually respond to the event changes as well. So why don't we go ahead and look down here on line 23. I'm going to plug in a method on the segmented control. So SC is the segmented control right here. We are going to say add target and just use a value of self, and the selector is going to handle the actual segmented changing. So handle segment change. It doesn't matter what you want to call this guy, but just type in a method there. For the event, just use value changed. And you might be asking, how do I know how to do all this? Well, I've been doing this for a couple of years, so it's pretty natural to know what the heck is going on by now. Right below this code here, line 30, I'm going to use @Objective-C file private and just type in that function name here. Make sure to always include func. And that looks pretty good. So inside of here, I'm going to print out segmented control, type this guy out correctly, and selected segment index, just like that. And what's going to happen is every time I alternate the changing of the segment here, you'll see 0, 1, and 2 on the bottom. So that's 1, that's 2. So you see 1, 2, and this is 0 right here. Okay, so 0, 1, and 2. All right, so that's pretty good. And now that I have a handle on whenever these guys are changing, what I'm going to do is for the TableView method right here, so we have two methods, right? Number of rows and the actual cell content. We are going to change them based on which segment we're on. So this is 0, 1, and 2. The way to do this kind of correctly and easily is to create a fourth array. So this guy, let's call it the master array, or whatever you want to call this guy. Let's say rows to display. Maybe this is a better name. I'm going to make this a variable. I'm going to set it equal to games at the very beginning. So this guy is going to be equal to this here. You can try to build this. I don't think this is going to work because you don't really have access to games, because whenever you're declaring this, games might not exist at this point in time. So what you have to do is you have to fix this with a lazy var, which means that this guy is created after this guy here. So, hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, make sure to let me know in the comments below. But that's how I'm going to construct my master array. So, this guy is the master array. And right above, I'm going to modify this code here. So here is number of rows in section. Why don't we just return rows to display.count, and also over here we are going to use rows to display and use index path.row. So what's going to happen is you're not going to see any type of change, and we still see World of Warcraft, Fortnite, PUBG, and Tetris. But instead, what you can do is for the rows to display here, let's just change it to devices at the very beginning. And you'll see that the application compiles and it runs correctly, but instead you're going to see devices instead. So iMac Pro and Mac Mini, you can do the same thing for TV shows if you really wanted to do so. All right, so hopefully you guys can see where this lesson is going. Nothing too fancy, right? So Full House and Doctor Who. What I'm going to do is every time I change one of the segments here, I'm going to make a little bit of a change. So this is where the handle segment change is occurring. I'm going to reset the rows to display equal to something else depending on the selected segment index. So let me just type out this code really quickly. It's going to make a lot more sense once you see the code, obviously. So switch, I'm going to switch on segment control, selected segment index. This guy, if it's 0, rows to display is equal to games, and then we have case of 1, rows to display is equal to, let's see, TV shows, and then the default is rows to display equals devices, just like that. Okay, so nothing too bad here, and what I'll do is at the very end, I'm going to reload the table view, and hopefully this is all of the code that I need for the actual changing to occur correctly. So TV shows, devices, see games, devices, let's see devices and TV shows. So that looks pretty decent. I think I have to fix this guy to actually be games at the very beginning. And I'll try to run this. I think we are pretty much at 99% of the way there. So obviously it's going to start at games at the very beginning, TV shows, Full House and Doctor Who, devices, iMac Pro and Mac Mini. All right, so nothing too bad with this entire logic that we have written out so far. If you want to fix the UI a little bit, you see you have spacing on the top, left, right, and bottom here a little bit. This guy is a little bit tricky to kind of figure out how to do. So why don't I show you what are the easiest tricks to getting this to work out. So let me get a spaced out. Let me say let padded stack view equals a UI stack view here. I think I can do this correctly. So I'm just going to stuff this segment control inside of a stack view. And then I'm going to provide this guy with some padding here. So padded stack view, let's see, layout. Let's see, one of these guys, layout margins, I believe. And just set this guy to init top right here. Why don't we use a value of 12, 12, and 12, and 12 as well. So what I'm going to do is give it padding on all edges and use this padded stack view right here. I don't think it's going to work out just yet. I feel like there's one more property I have to set. So that still looks the same here. And let's see, padded stack view and a relative. So it is layout margins, relative arrangement. And I believe this guy is going to default as some kind of value. So let me just check really quickly here. And let's see, defaults to false, as you can see at the very last line here. Let's just change this to a true. So we go to true and we should be good to go here. I really couldn't figure out this guy for the longest time, but basically if you combine these two properties here, you can provide padding and spacing like so. Maybe you don't want this large space right here, so you can modify that to 0. A lot of neat tricks that you are probably not aware of, but once you know of them, it makes your job a lot easier. So this guy looks a little bit chopped off here. So let's bring this guy back to something like 6 and rerun this bad boy. And everything looks good to go. You can obviously modify the logic to be whatever you want. These guys right here are just raw strings. If you want to use a class or some kind of struct to represent your data, you'll have to modify your logic accordingly. But so far so good. This just works for strings, but hopefully you get the logic on how to alternate what you see inside of your table view based on the selected segmented control index right over here using this switch statement. Alrighty everybody, that's going to wrap it up for today's video, and hopefully I was able to do everything under 20 minutes. If you have any requests of your own that you would like to see me build out, make sure to let me know on my Twitter account at buildthat_app. Send me a message and make sure to also send me a screenshot of whatever feature that you want to see built out. That's going to be it for me today. Hopefully I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye guys.